noise!
Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. Brought to you by funkandstuff.net, this is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine, musicologist, creative arts journalist, and multimedia pro. Whether you're watching the video version of this show or the audio-only podcast version, I thank you so much for your continued interest and support in this show. If you enjoy this programming, there are several ways to help support Truth and Rhythm, as well as contribute to further enhancements and expansion, plus get some sweet perks and rewards in the process. First, subscribe to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Second, join Truth and Rhythm's new membership program through Patreon, which features 3 tiers for truth believers, truth seekers, and truth crusaders. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at funkandstuff.net. At that site, which is loaded with awesome content, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk, shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funk and Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. Sponsorship opportunities are available as well. Contact me directly at scottg@funkandstuff.net. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm. Hey, before we get started with today's show, I just want to draw your attention to new merchandise. Funk and Stuff and Truth and Rhythm designs are in, and they look pretty darn cool. So show your support, help support the program, and show off some stylish merchandise and apparel. Only at the Funk and Stuff store. I'm honored to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership the iconic R&B and funk musician, singer, composer, and producer Charles Wright, best known as leader of the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band and its classic tune, Express Yourself. Starting in 1967, the group released 5 grooving albums, and Wright added 4 more under his own name through the mid-1970s. Among the other hits were Do Your Thing, Till You Get Enough, Loveland, and Your Love Means Everything to Me. Right up through recent years, Wright has continued to perform and record, as well as pen his autobiography called Up From Where We've Come. And he's even hosted a TV show. Charles, thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing real well. It's very good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Same. All right. No problem.
And you're coming to us from Los Angeles, right?
Yes. Where are you, by the way?
I'm actually in Charlotte, but I'm from Los Angeles originally. I'm representing with the Lakers hat, so you know.
I see. You're a Laker man. Still, all right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I grew up mostly in Santa Monica and was living in the Fox Hills area before I came out here.
Okay.
So not too far down from the Forum and all that good stuff. So
yeah.
So I wanted to jump in. You know, you're from Mississippi, and that's, you know, stories well documented in your book that I mentioned, and great, compelling story, amazing story of how you know, came from there and moved to LA as a teen and became immersed in the doo-wop scene and gravitated towards music.
Yeah.
What was it about music that just clicked for you and made you decide to pursue that as your passion?
You know, the early part of my life, uh, I was not privy to hear very much music, especially in secular music. My father was a very religious man, and he had been convinced by his, I guess, his sharecropping boss, that the blues was the devil's music. So I couldn't listen to the devil's music. And I came to LA at age of 12. Then I went to elementary school. After that, I went to junior high school. And on the way home, these kids would be singing these songs by the Clovers and Lloyd Price and the Drifters. And I was wondering where they was hearing these songs. And I found out that they were listening to the Hunter Hancock show. Hunter Hancock played all the new music by black artists that came out. He was a white man, but he played all black music. I don't know if you hip to Hunter Hancock. You should be.
No, before my time, but certainly interesting to hear about them.
Maybe not in your neighborhood. Anyway, so I started listening to that music and I became enthralled. I started buying records. Didn't have a record player, couldn't play it at my home because my father wouldn't allow it. So I'd go to my cousin's house or my friend's house and I'd coax them into playing some of my records sometime. And then by the time I got to high school, the first day I went to high school, as a matter of fact, I went and done my orientation. Then I went to this lunch area, and where you eat outside on tables outside. And I bought myself some spaghetti and a roll, and I sit down, and then I heard something like I had never heard before. It was beautiful, man. So I wrapped my roll up in my spaghetti, and I followed my ear trying to find out where this was coming from. And every once in a while it would stop. So I had no choice but to stop and wait for it to start again. And eventually I got around behind a bungalow, and there were four guys back there singing four-part harmony with their lips protruding in each other's face, man. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. And there was a group called the Youngsters. And they would go back there every day behind that bungalow and rehearse. And so I went back there every day at lunchtime and stood there with my mouth and eyes wide open, listening to them sing. And eventually I began to feel like, geez, I ought to be part of this. But I didn't know nothing about nothing musically, actually. I did eventually, I took clarinet at school there, and the music teacher gave me a D and told me to get into anything except for music. And I didn't get discouraged though. And then one day I heard Jesse Belvin. You ever hear of Jesse Belvin?
Mm-hmm.
I heard Jesse Belvin singing a song called One Little Blessing. Man, I was so intrigued by that voice. I looked him up in the phone book and I called him. I got him after about the third or fourth time. So, Mr. Belvin, I want to sing. I want to sound just like you. He gave me a great piece of advice. He said, get your own style, leave mine the F alone. I said, well, I thought that'd be a compliment. He said, you ever hear Johnny Ace? I said, yeah, I heard Johnny Ace. He sounded like him too, but that voice, you got style. He said, you don't get it by now, boy, I'm hanging up. I said, oh no, please don't hang up. I don't know what y'all doing, but I just want to be a part of this. And he was nice enough to invite me to a rehearsal that weekend with a group called the Turks. Turks had hit records on the radio too. So I went over there, man. By the time I left, I had to be a part of this thing somehow. And so I started a little group with my cousins, and we eventually began to sound like something. And I found this guy who had a record company and a rinky-dink studio in the neighborhood. And Jesse Belvin told me about him. So I went by his place. Am I talking too much?
No, you're doing good. Yeah.
Went by his place, and I told him I had a group. Now we were just getting started, and I wondered if he'd give us an audition. He said, yeah, as soon as you get it together, come on in here. So we didn't get it together. I mean, we were all right. We went in there, and one night, and he heard us sing. He said, no, you're not ready yet, so I'm going to record you so you know how you sound. So my cousin, I had two cousins and another guy in the group. So my cousin, he sang this beautiful song. He had a beautiful voice. He sang a couple of songs. Then I got up to sing. The man said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't you never try to sing lead. You stay in the background. Oh, it broke my heart, man. So there was a tunnel not far from my house. So at night, I go down that tunnel for about 3-4 months, and I sing so I could hear myself coming back in the echo. And I went back to his place one night and wrote a couple of songs. I played one of those songs, hoping he wouldn't stop me before I got through the first verse. When I finished, he said, you're not the same guy. I don't believe this. You're not the same guy. You can't be. He said, you're going to be my superstar. And that was about 8 months after I went over to Mr. Belvin's house. I went in the studio. He took me in the studio and recorded that song. And it was my first recording and my first local hit record.
What's the title?
Eternally. It's by a group called the Twilighters. Strange. The drummer.
So first you were discouraged about the clarinet, then you're singing, but you overcame all that.
Yeah, well, I was determined I had to be a part of this thing, you know. Yeah, I ended up playing the guitar, and I became a studio musician. But before I did that, I became A&R man for a record company, Delphi Records, and co-produced a hit called Those Oldie But Goodies Remind Me of You. And when my boss, who was known to be very stingy, he refused to pay me what he promised to pay me, so I quit that job and started producing myself.
Charles, how did you feel when you first heard a record you were involved with on the radio?
Man, you got to read this book. Not this book, my next book. Because, like I say, my father, he wasn't having it. And the first night that actually, this guy, he recorded me, and he set my record in the corner in his office for about 4 or 5 months, I guess. So I just gave up on the whole idea after nothing had happened there all that time. Then one day I left school and I hadn't seen the guy. I just happened to drop by his office on the way from school. Someone told me to drop by. I dropped by and he said, you're going to be played on the radio tonight. I said, you kidding? I said, no. He said, Huggy Boy, going to play your record tonight on the radio. So I was excited. I went and told my friends, I'm going to be on the radio tonight. And one of my friends who was my staunchest competitor, his name was Sleepy. His real name was Samuel Vance, but he had sleepy eyes, so we called him Sleepy. He picked me up, and he and his brother and one of the guys that will be in the group if it hits, we all got to riding around waiting for Huggy Boy to play that record. We started out about 9 o'clock a lot of stuff happened between 9 and 12. But by 12, he hadn't played it. So I said, well, let's go, man. Take me home. Let's give this up. He ain't going to play that record. So they took me home. I went around the side of the house and into the back entrance. And by the time I got to the dining room, I heard a horn going, brr, brr, brr. So I ran out the front door to hear my voice on the radio. Oh, man. But my father came out the side door, pissed off. What's all this noise out here? I said, Daddy, that's me I'm singing on the radio. I don't care who it was, Joe. Get that noise out from the front of my house. One of the guys wanted to fight my father. It was a mess. But that's the first time I heard it already.
Kind of mixed feelings on that one, I guess. Kind of conflicting experiences.
Yeah. I didn't really get to hear it all because of the confusion. But, it's all right.
Yeah. So you got into a lot of session work and really learned the business, right?
Yep. Yeah. I had one of the places I was producing out of, the lady that ran the place, she really did me a favor. She told me how to deal with this business. And thank God I took her advice and it's worked out very well for me.
And so what led to the formation of the 103rd Street Watts group that you debuted in 1967? What kind of led up to that?
I was, while I was an A&R man, I would go out scouting for talent. And one night, I stumbled into a nightclub just because I heard the music. And I went in there and there was this band in there and they had a horn section and a strong rhythm section and they were doing routines and they were dressed in uniformly. And I was, oh my God, this is what I ought to be doing here. So it took me a couple of years. I finally started playing in a nightclub in Pasadena, the Plush Club. First gig I got. And I wasn't in the union. You're supposed to be in the union. So I got hired this saxophone player to play sax, and he and hired him as a leader. So, because I couldn't report it as the leader of the band till I got myself together with the union. And so it was, his name was John Rayford, so it was Big John. I hired one of the best old bass players, played on a lot of the hit records, came out of Los Angeles, Chuck Hamilton, played upright bass. And I hired a drummer who I had really seen going to school concerts and stuff. He was always playing with, when I hired him, and I realized he wasn't very good at all. So I eventually replaced him with another drummer who claimed he played jazz, but he just needed a gig. He would play with us until he found himself a jazz gig, but he wasn't too particular about playing rock and roll. And 2 years later, he was still threatening to go play. We was having so much fun. He didn't want to go nowhere. And then I ended up changing several drummers, and I had to change bass players. Nevin Dunlap, who was the bass player, he had come out here with the OJs, and they weren't doing very much, so he joined us as the bass player. So I had a 4-piece band. And then some guys would come and want to sit in. And after a while, when some come sit in, they kept coming back. So I'd hire them and we split out. We wasn't making no money hardly at all, but we split out a little money with them until I ended up with 9 guys. And then we started getting some halfway decent gigs. And we stayed on one club on Crenshaw for 2.5 years. we played in another a dump down on Florence with the people. They would appreciate. That's where we really got ourselves together, because they come in there and we were out of tune or wasn't playing right or good. They boo us. But if we was cooking, they scream and holler and having a joyous time. So we kind of cut our teeth in that club. Then we went to the Haunted House on Hollywood and Vine. We stayed there a couple of years. And after that, we got involved with Bill Cosby, because I was recording with Bill Cosby, and he needed a band to go on the road with him too. So
How did you first meet Bill Cosby?
I was playing on session at a studio called Nashville West on Melrose. And he came in with Fred Smith, who was a producer. Fred had produced the Olympics. You hip to the Olympics?
Olympics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Produced a few hits on them. He produced Jackie Lee. He produced Bob and Earl. And so Warner Brothers appointed him to produce Bill Cosby's first singing record, a musical record, because he didn't sing much. He more or less rapped. And so I'm in there playing with this band that I play with a lot of times in the studio. And then comes Fred Smith and Bill Cosby looking for a band to record his first single, which is a song called Little Old Man, which was actually Stevie Wonder's Uptight, but it was a revised version of that. And so 2 weeks later, we were in there recording that song with Bill Cosby. So that's how I met Bill.
Oh, and that helped you get the deal with Warner Brothers for your group.
Yeah, his contract was coming up at the end at Warner Brothers. So he talked them into signing us and a lady named Dolores Gibson. And I don't think they thought we were going to be able to do anything, but I was ready. So I asked him to back a truck up to the Haunted House, the place, the club we were playing in, and we recorded a live album. And out of that came Do Your Thing, which was a pretty big record.
Yeah, the first one though was Hot Heat and Sweet Groove, right?
That's a different album. That's Fred Smith produced that album.
Did that one come first though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I produced Together.
And then Together came next. Yeah. When you guys first started getting your albums, who did you like aspire to? Who are some of the other acts of the time that you were like, hey, we want to be like them or bigger than them? Or
well, now we were doing top 40, a lot of top 40. And we did a lot of Otis Redding, James Brown, Temptations. But I had heard a live album a few years back by James Brown at the Apollo Theater, which is the real reason that I backed the truck up to the Haunted House to record my band. So James Brown was one of the key people that inspired me. Otis Redding definitely inspired me. And like I say, we're doing top 40, so we're doing everybody's tunes.
who inspired you guitar wise or instrumentally?
Adolph Jacobs. Adolph Jacobs, man, he could make a guitar rhythmically. He could make an earthquake. He was the Coasters guitar player. But he also played with the band that I was telling you about, I stumbled up on that night. He wasn't with the band that night, but all the other times I saw that band, most all the other times, he was the guitar player. I learned how to play just by watching him, because I'm left-handed. and I didn't have a left-handed guitar. One of the guys in the group I was singing with had a right-handed guitar. So he let me mess around with it. So I taught myself to play on the thing. But I taught myself with Adolph was the one that really I watched him to learn.
Did that make you look up a little bit to Jimi Hendrix when he came on the scene, being a left-handed player?
But he was different. Now Jimi Hendrix picked my guitar up and turned it this way and play it, and he turned this way and play it. I was supposed not to be able to play guitar. As a matter of fact, when I went to get lessons, after I taught myself so much, I went to get lessons to the guy in the neighborhood who was supposed to be the teacher. And I sat down for about half an hour of consultation, and with my guitar in front of me, open in the case. And he said, okay, let me see what you can do. I picked up my guitar. He said, what's this? I said, what do you mean? What's this? You hold a guitar like that, turn that. I said, this is the way I play. So not in here you won't. I said, well, let me show you what I know at least. You know, you want in here, not like that. Get out of here. Kick me out.
Another bump in the road.
I went to, you know who Gene Page is?
Yeah.
Gene Page used to come by my house and bring a group or something, and for me to play the guitar. Gene good at adapting other people's styles. So he come by and I play with the group, so he would hire me to go to the studio the next day and play on the session. And I'd be so embarrassed because he'd be in there. Gene would have 30, 35 musicians in there, string players, horn players, everybody. And I couldn't read a lick. So he sitting me down and he got a paper that's almost black with notes he put in front of me. So I figured, well, maybe if I played what I was playing, you know, just play like I always played behind the group, it'd be all right. But he wanted it like he had heard it and wrote it out. Come, look, Charles, it goes like this. See them up there, see this? And I didn't know one thing, so I said, I went to City College to learn music theory. And within about 8 months' time, I couldn't stay out of the studio. They wanted me in, somebody wanted me in there all day, every day. Matter of fact, I did something real stupid. I was telling somebody about yesterday. Mike Nesbitt. You know who that is?
From the Monkees?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mike Nesbitt would hire me and pay me triple skill every day of the week that I could come to go to RCA studio with him. While he played the organ, I played the guitar, just to jam. And he was taking all that stuff on tape. I probably made all the Monkees hits and wouldn't know one from the other, because just sit there jamming. I was stupid. And he ended up broke. Then he sued Columbia and he won. About 20 years ago, he won $500 million.
Wow.
I called him up, he ain't answered the phone yet.
Oh, man.
All right. That's just about the stupidest thing. One of the stupidest thing I ever did.
Well, you mentioned Gene Page, you mentioned a lot of players, but I want to mention for listeners and viewers on those early records, you had people like James Gatson and Al McKay, who went on with Earth, Wind and Fire, and you had James Carmichael involved. And I mean, these are some big cats, you know?
I taught those guys how to play this stuff. And that's no lie. James Gatson thought he was a jazz drummer. I used to drill him day in, day out. Al McKay was playing like Jimi Hendrix when I met him. I taught him to play rhythm. Then the problem happened with Al and I. He challenged me once. He learned how to play rhythm. And he was a challenge always. And then, if it wasn't for him, and they both are very dynamic people, but it wasn't for him and James Gatson. Well, now I would say James Gaston wasn't for him, my group would still be together, the ones that are alive. They showed me a lot of appreciation. And I know I don't talk about it much. I inspire whatever Earth, Wind, Fire is doing. And they're the greatest band on the planet.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, those guys, I know Al McKay is a little, I think the word's mercurial, but heck of a player though.
He is mercurial. Is that egotistical?
That can be part of it.
I guess that probably is the right word. L is, he's something else. But he learned that rhythm and he plays well. But he used to give me hell sometimes because he's strong. I would teach him the rhythm of the song. We recorded Love Land about 40 different days because he hated it. And we go in there and he started playing. I could tell him to play. And then he's jumbling it up, I don't know what it is. He just would not play it right. And then one day I tricked him into do all of them. Because every time we did it, it never came out right. So one day we did 5 Slide the Family Stones, Everyday People. I have a special arrangement on that song. And we were in the studio, we did it, and it was so good. When we got through, everybody was laughing. I said, Love Land, 1, 2, 3, bam. And that's the time it happened. That one time is when it came out right.
I was going to say, Charles, yeah, the arrangement of Everyday People was definitely a different take and really, interesting one.
You heard it?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, yeah. That was something we did. I had practice of doing stuff at the clubs, until we get it tight. And we used to do that every night. It came out all right.
And you were talking about Together, and there's actually James Brown. You mentioned James Brown, but you did Papa's Got a Brand New Bag actually on that record.
Yeah, I did more than that, but that's the one that came out, yeah.
So Do Your Thing, that's a classic, so funky, hit number 11 on the pop chart, crossed over, number 12 on R&B. How did you come into that magic of that particular song, and did you know it was a hit right away?
I did, yeah. Well, I actually have to give the group credit for this. That night, when we walked in the club, they got microphones set up all over the stage. And the guys was kind of nervous, So the first set didn't go right for us, I was concerned. And I'm a heckler for pitch. Now pitch wasn't right. And finally about the third set, we loosened up. And I started singing, everybody get on the floor. And we had no arrangement. Everybody just started playing, do, and just start playing and built from that to ding, do, all those phrases. Nobody said a word that just happened. It was a happening. And I cut it out, took it home, and that was on a Saturday night. And Monday I had a meeting with the group and I played it. And they said, don't associate my name with this. Some of them said, this is a piece of junk. But I felt it when we was doing it. I said, man, this is a hit. Man, that's a piece of junk. The only person that agreed with me was James Gaston, but he didn't agree till everybody had left. He said, yeah, it might be all right. And I put it out and nothing happened. 8 months later, I got a call from disc jockey Georgie Woods in Philadelphia. And I want you to come star on my show. I said, star on your show? You gotta be kidding. Yeah. I said, well, what do you mean? Who who's on the show? Ruth Brown, Chuck Jackson, all my heroes. You gotta be careful what am I gonna do on that show? He told somebody he don't know. I said, he said, did you know you're number 3 in Philadelphia? I said, what? What song? He said, do your thing. I said, you gotta be kidding. He said, no, you're number 3 in Philadelphia. So I said, well, listen, let me call you right back. So I called Clyde Bekimo and Warren Brothers, and guy in Philadelphia just called me and told me he wanted me to start the show that Clyde said, man, the guy's pulling your leg. We stopped tracking that records 3 months ago. It's dead issue. I said, but he sounds serious. The man's pulling your leg, Charles. I said, well, at least can't you call and find out what's happening? He said, yeah, I'll call you back in 15 minutes. 5 minutes later, ring, I pick up the phone. I don't believe it. You're 93,000 records in Philadelphia alone. Never heard of an R&B record. I said, see, you guys ain't on your job. He said, it could be just a Philadelphia record. I said, if 93,000 people in Philadelphia think it's a hit, then 93,000 in New York and LA and everywhere else gonna think it's a hit. So he did. Then, next thing I know, here come the Isley Brothers who live right down there in New Jersey. They hadn't heard Do Your Thing, they come up with It's Your Thing. So now my record's going up the chart, theirs go up higher, mine go up, and they start doing that, the 2 records. Do Your Thing was in the charts 27 weeks that year. That's the longest record in the charts, I think. Anyway, they sold a lot of records, and that was really the beginning of the band's career.
Did you end up doing any shows with the Isleys around that time, and where you both would do those songs?
I ran into the Isley Brothers at LA airport one day, and I introduced myself to them, and they told me, they said, man, we be working off of your stuff, we spin off of you. I said, yeah, I know, but I put a little egotistical thing, and then I turned and walked away. I shouldn't have done that. So next time I saw them, I apologized for that. They saw it's cool, but I put them back on the map. They were off the map for a long time, but they got back on and they stayed on there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, who were some of the bigger acts that you got to share stages with in the early part of the band's career?
Everybody. Everybody. Nobody want to believe this, I'm sure, but we ran the Temptations off the stage. We have been working for 2.5 years at Haunted House, working on routines and everything. We had the tightest thing going on, man. But thanks to the people that inside the group that was not happy, and a manager that I fired that was very powerful, they disrupted my group. But that's all right. God's been good to me anyway, so I'm not complaining.
Do Your Thing. I remember hearing the Ohio Players redid that in the early 80s, a pretty funky version too.
I didn't like it. I did it with them.
Oh, you did? Yeah, they were trying to, they had really fallen off by then. They were trying to find a way to get back.
Well, Your Love Means Everything to Me, my song.
Mm-hmm.
They told me that's what inspired them to get into business, to start put a band together.
Oh.
Yeah, but I did that with them and Richard Fields.
Right, Dimples, yeah.
Yeah, and when I left the studio, Richard put them electric drums on there. I don't like the electric drum. They kill the spirit in the music. So he messed it up as far as I'm concerned. But it never did flow like it should, because the drummer that they had on there, he was I don't know if I'm sure you understand. He was straight ahead. You know what I mean?
Not enough pocket.
Yeah, we were. You know, the heartbeat. If we follow the heartbeat, that's what it's all about. When you hear music, your heart synchronizes with it. So the heartbeat is not stirring like that. It's up and down and all around and everything like that. And a lot of people don't understand that. You might understand what I'm saying, but that's the kind of drum they had on that thing, and it was kind of stiff to me.
Yeah, it's when the electronics really started coming in, and they were just trying to stay current, with whatever was coming in.
Where did you hear that?
What?
Do your thing by the wire players.
Oh, well, I had all the Ohio Players records, so.
Oh, okay, I don't know which one it's on, so I can't go back and look it up. I could
Yeah, I was
probably,
on. They were on. I had moved on to Boardwalk, a label called Boardwalk at the time. After leaving, they were on Mercury, then Arista, and then Boardwalk. And on Boardwalk they did a lot of covers. They did Otis Redding, Try a Little Tenderness, and they did, Your Song, and yeah.
I
So
probably find it on YouTube anyway. I forgot about it. Do you want to go Santa Maria's version of that?
no, is that a good one?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I'll have to check that out. What year abouts was that? Do you know?
68, something like that.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you very much.